Good day, learners. You are welcome back to study session 6. As we promised earlier, it's going to be interesting. But before we go into study session 6, I want to remind us or recap what we did in study session 5. In study session 5, we looked at the moral values. We also assessed certain conceptual clarifications, assessing morals, values, and then we went into problems plaguing Nigeria. Moral problems plaguing Nigeria. We saw each of these problems, and then we also went into assessing the basic causes of these problems and then the effect it has in Nigeria as a nation. We went further to assess moral values and religion, how each of these are seen, put side by side, moral values and religions. And then we also saw and discussed extensively on moral values, a catalyst for development. Having said that, we now want to move now to the study of today, which is study session 6, African religion, features and practices in societies. Like I said earlier, it's going to be very interesting. African comprises of several clans which are bound together by languages, tradition, and religious observance, beliefs, and practices. Africa has a very rich heritage of what past generations of African people did experience and pass on to their children. Africans have formed a long line which links their forefathers, foremothers, with the descendants who now feel proud of it. The African heritage is rich, but it is not uniform. It is similar, but yet different, from time to time, from place to place, and from people to people. Among this African heritage is religion, which is the richest part of the cultural heritage. Don't forget, our study session says African religion, features and practices in societies. And so we go straight to African religion. Africa is a large continent with different cultural heritage and geographical boundaries. Africa is known to consist of about 40 nations around the South Sahara Desert. Africa has their own diverse history, political situation, multiple languages, and ethnic group make up the sub-Saharan Africa. Africans have traditional beliefs and are existing as one particular body and practice which are identified as African religion. These beliefs are many, and there are many ethnic groups within the continent. No single principle of religion can adequately explain how it operates, but these traditions are oral rather than scriptural beliefs in an amount of higher and lower gods, including a supreme creator, beliefs in spirits, respecting the dead, the use of magic, and African medicine. We want to look at the nature of African religion. How do we see African religion? How is African religion? African religion is the indigenous religion of Africans, as the name implies. It is the product of the religious thinking and experience of our forefathers that has been handed down from generation to generation by the forefathers of the present generation of Africans. African religion is seen more on a communal basis rather than an individual basis. These beliefs are held together by the community. The ceremonies are performed in groups by the family, relatives, and the whole community, or by a group having the same occupation. When we talk about African religion, it is an essential part of the way of life of people. It accompanies the individuals long before his birth, through pregnancy, childhood, and long after he or she has died. History, the heart and experience of the people, though it has no sacred book, it has been able to move with times and has not produced any religious controversies. African religion has no written records. Their religious beliefs and practices are known and revealed through oral traditions. The oral mechanism, which include myths, proverbs, theophorics, names, everyday speech, liturgy, pitai, sayings, and songs, are primary means of knowing something about Africans' interpretation of universe and the thereafter. Aside from the nature of African religion, we want to assess the features of African religion. The features of African religion. There are basically 5 component elements which constitute the structure of African religion. These various structures are interrelated, and all the components are interrelated by God, and God is the supreme among all of them. The structure links man with God. This we can see in the description we have, which shows belief in the system. We have belief in the divinities. We have beliefs in magic, and we have beliefs in medicine, and we have God at the center. First, we want to look at belief in God. Appropriately, you see the diagram in your material, you refer to it, and you have more information. Belief in God. This is the core and coercive factor of the African religion. God is the origin and sustenance of all things. He is outside and beyond his creation, on one hand, and also personally involved in his creation, so that it's not outside of him or his reach. In all societies of African countries, the people have a notion of God as the supreme being. God is not a stranger to the African people, and in the traditional societies, there are no atheists. Their knowledge of God is expressed in proverbs, short statements, songs, prayers, names, myths, stories, and religious ceremonies. There are many eternal and intrinsic attributes of God among Africans. First, we can say that God is supreme. He is considered to be omnipresent. That is, he omniscient. That is, he knows all things. He is also seen as the omnipresent. He is simultaneously everywhere. Right now, where you are, where I'm seated, where I'm standing, where the other persons, where your parents, everybody is everywhere. He is also known as the omnipotent. He is the Almighty. We know the attributes of God. We can say that God is unique. He cannot be compared with any being. He is there, and there is none like him. The uniqueness of God is one of the reasons why there are no images graven in drawing or in painting of him in African religion. You cannot see any. The Supreme Being is a spirit. This also accounts for why there is no shrine for him in many parts of Africa. Otherwise, you would have seen one, you would have been introduced to one. That's why we go to church or we go to mosque. There is no particular place called a shrine that we can say we want to go and see God. He cannot be confined in a time, on, and place. He is the impartial judge who sees and knows everything. God has names which result from the total experience of the people about deity. In the Yoruba land, because we have Africans, men and women, and they know that God is real, and it expresses, and God, and these also, they express the belief in him as Africans, as the controller of all things. And so there are names that are given to God by different tribes. For instance, in Yoruba land, it's called Eledumare. Among the Ifiks and the Ibibios, they call them Abasi. Among Africans, God is king with absolute supremacy or authority, which emphasizes his uniqueness. The divines in their numbers owe their existence to him, and they have no absolute power of their own. We want to look at beliefs in divinities and spirits. Believe in divinities and spirits. We have told you that God is known by all, is the one that is at the center. And so the African believes that God is the supreme being, that he created the heaven, the earth, and all the inhabitants. He also brings into being the divinities and spirits to serve his theocratic world. These divinities are divine beings, and they are derived from the supreme God. They serve God's purpose in the theocratic control and maintenance of the universe. They also serve as intermediaries or functionaries between God and man. In many African societies, there are temples of divinities through whom God, the supreme being, manifests himself. They are many, and the people hold various forms of worship for them. The concept of divine ordering of the government of the universe among the various groups in Africa. The divinities are associated with natural phenomena, objects, human activities, and experiences. Spirits can reside in natural phenomena, but they are not bound with these material objects. They are separate and separable entities, and being does not depend on the material object, which may be destroyed or replaced. The various material objects used include rocks, hills, mountains, rivers, caves, trees, pots or thick forests. All these are only channels or avenues through which the spirits are approached. The divinities are next in rank to the supreme being. Learners, in traditional societies, the people believe that the supreme being, because of his superlative attributes and awesomeness, could not be directly approached, and hence to worship them, the three categories are: 1. To worship them, they must use three particular categories, and these categories are the primordial divinities. When we talk about primordial divinities, these are believed to be the divinities of heaven, those believed to be with the Supreme Being long before the creation of the universe. They partook in the creative work of their origin is not known. The next one is deified ancestors. Deified ancestors were human beings who had lived extraordinary and mysterious lives on earth. When they died, they were canonized or deities as gods or goddess. After their divinification, they were no longer ancestors but divinities. The next one is personification of natural objects. Personification of natural objects such as divinities are those that are associated with hills, mountains, rivers, rocks, canvas, brooks, and thick forests. Here are some of the examples of divinities in Africa. For instance, we have Orisha. We have the Oshongo, the Ogun in the Yoruba or in the southwest states of Nigeria. Believe in the occult of ancestors. Believe in the cult of ancestors. Believe in the continued existence and influence of the departed fathers or mothers of a family and tribe is very prominent among Africans. They are believed to be ever living and watching over the living. Not only are the ancestors revered as past heroes, they are felt to be still present, watching over the household directly, concerned in all the affairs of the family and property, giving abundant harvest and fertility. The ancestors are believed to be the custodian of the law and customs of the tribe. They punish with sickness or misfortune those who infringe upon them. We want to look at African ideas of partial reincarnation, because the Africans have a certain idea about dying and being reincarnated. And so, African idea of partial reincarnation, when societies have it that the ancestors or living dead are reborn. This is partial reincarnation because not the entire person is reborn in this case, but only certain aspects of these characters or physical distinctions are seen. People therefore would say, so person has come back or has returned or has been reborn. People say, Babatunde. The child may then be given the name of that deceased. For instance, if that person was Tunji, the child can be renamed Tunji, since he has the features of the reborn person. We want to look at beliefs in the practice of magic and medicine. The beliefs in the practice of magic and medicine. In Africa and in general, magic is defined as an attempt by man to tap and control those supernatural powers or resources of the universe for one's own benefits. And so we want to look at two basic types of magic here. One, we have the contagious magic and the homeopathic magic. These two types of magic can be used in both good and evil ways. When used maliciously, it is condemned and then called black magic or sorcery. Medicine. This is the act of using the available force of nature to prevent disease, to restore and preserve health. There are two types of medicine. These are preventive, known as prophylactic, or curative, which can also be seen as therapeutic. Medicine. This is the act as we have said. In this case, we have Osanji. They are guardians of divinities of magic and medicine. Ritual is a common element of magic, and medicines are both dependent upon spiritual beliefs. The last four elements, that is, belief in divinities, spirit, ancestors, magic, and medicine, do not have absolute categorization on their own. They depend on the first element, which is the belief in God. And therefore, it is only the first which possesses an element of ultimacy clearly, and that is expressed in the whole continent in the notion of the Supreme Being. But the first element, which is the belief in God, that has only the absolute existence of his own rights. And so God does not rely on any of the elements. He has neither cults, symbols, nor statues. He rarely receives sacrifice, but is regarded as the ultimate recipient of the sacrifice offered to the spirits. After understanding these aspects, we want to look at African religious practices, rites of passage. African religious practices, rites of passage. There are the cycle or stages of life, which starts from the conception of a child, birth, the passage through puberty, the new state of marriage, ordination, initiation, and the ceremonies of burial after death. All the rites all together constitute the sacraments of personal and family life. These events are religiously and socially celebrated by Africans through rituals. This is because to them, religion permeates the whole of life, and Africans are notoriously religious. And so we start with pregnancy, birth, and childhood. Pregnancy, birth, and childhood. Pregnancy. In African societies, childlessness is regarded as a great problem because it prevents the continuity of the human society. Much rites of rituals are connected with pregnancy and childbirth in the traditional societies to ensure safe delivery, good health, and fulfillment of life. This is because in many African societies, marriage is not fully recognized or consummated until the wife has given birth. Pregnancy, therefore, is the first indication that a new member of a society is on the way. As a result of this, one could see that the expectant mother becomes a special person and receives special treatment from her relatives or in-laws. The pregnant woman must observe certain taboos and regulations. Various rituals will be performed in order to protect her and her child. The mother-to-be is forbidden to eat certain foods, do certain work, or work during a particular time of the day, like in hot afternoon or in the night, so as to prevent the spirit of born to die children, known in the palace, Yoruba palace, Abiku, from entering her womb. When she has to walk, the expectant mother carries protective charms on her body between the 8th and the 9th month of pregnancy. Birth. When the actual birth is to take place, an elderly woman acts as midwife, and relevant rituals are performed to aid the expectant mother during the process of labor and delivery of the child. But here, we need to note that these religious rites vary from ethnic group to another. Nearly in all African societies, The placenta and the umbilical cord are the symbols of the child's attachment to the mother, to womanhood, and to the state of inactivity. They are treated as special objects among Africans, since it symbolizes the separation of the child from the mother. They are ritualistically disposed. They are either buried in the ground or thrown into rivers or used as charms for the child to wear or use, in whichever way the parents may so deem fit. After the child must have been born, after a few days, naming ceremony begins, and so we want to discuss naming. The name given to the child at birth may mark the occasion of the child's birth. Some names might describe the personality of the individual or his character, or some key events in his life, while other names given to children at birth may come from the living dead, that is, the ancestors, who might be thought to have been partially reincarnated in the child if the family observes certain traits in common between the child and a particular living dead, or after consulting the oracle on the third day, as we have in the Yoruba people of Nigeria. Another thing we want to consider here in African culture is the puberty and initiation rites that are undertaken, and so poverty and initiation rites. In many African citizens, we have these rites and ceremonies to mark the child passage of life, of childhood into adulthood. Only few do observe initiations and puberty rites. These are physically, socially, and religiously celebrated. These initiation rites have some symbolic meanings as well as the physical drama, and impacts a lot in the life of the child. Another thing we want to look at is marriage. It is expected in African culture and African people, marriage is the focus of existence. It is a complex affair with economic, social, and religious aspects. Marriage is a drama in which everyone becomes an actor or actress and not just a spectator. Marriage is a duty, a requirement from the corporate society, and a rhythm of life in which everyone must participate. Otherwise, those who do not participate in it is, of course, to the community a rebel and a lawbreaker. He or she is regarded as abnormal. It is religious obligation in which the individual contributes the seeds of life towards man's struggle against the laws of original immortality. Biologically, both husband and wife are reproduced in their children, thus perpetuating the chain of humanity. Marriage is therefore a long process, and it is full of various rituals performed at each stage. Therefore, different customs and traditions observed in the matter of finding suitors or partners for marriage. This depends on the various ethnic groups. A clear note must be taken so that when you start, you'll be able to know that the differences exist. One, it starts with introduction, as in the Christian or in the Christendom or in Christianity and in Islam. African converts with this foreign religion still adhere to the demands of traditional marriage rites called engagement, which is usually done before or after church wedding in the case of Christian, or Muslim nikah, depending on the agreement of the families. In traditional societies, marriages are not allowed between close relatives. There are many customs of the wedding activities, as there are many African people. The custom of presenting gifts to to the bride's family is practiced all over Africa, though in various degree and giving various names such as bride wealth, bride gifts, bride price, or dowry. This marriage gift is an important institution in African society. It is a token of gratitude on the part of the bridegroom's family to those of the bride for those care over her and allowing her to become their wife. The state of marriage among Africans is polygamy. That is a system where there is one husband and two or more wives. Men getting married to two or more wives is a custom found all over Africa society. But where a woman has two or more husbands is polyandry. But this is not allowed in Africa. We want to look at death and the hereafter. Death and the hereafter. Please take claim note of this, learners. Death is everybody's concern in traditional societies. It is an inevitable and disruptive phenomenon among Africans. In African belief, death is not the end of life. It does not write finish to man's earthly journey. Take note of that too. It is only a means whereby the present earthly existence is changed for another. After death, man passes into a life beyond, which according to the Yoruba people is called Enyiwa, afterlife. In this afterlife, it is believed that those who are finished here go on living. Death therefore is seen by an African man as part of the natural rhythm of life, and paradoxically, every human death is thought to have external cause, making it both natural and unnatural. Death to an African is seen as the beginning of a permanent ontological departure of the individual from mankind to spirithood. At death, the soul of the person goes to God, the supreme being. Yet the dead person is not cut off from relatives. They continue to hold him and see him as a living dead. The relatives, however, of the dead, however, sees the dead in spirit, which can be approached through libation, innovation, prayer, and offerings. The dead now act as intermediaries between their families, those who are living, and God, or even between the world of men and that of the divinities and the spirit, or between men. Therefore, the majority of Africans have strong belief that judgment takes place at the end of each person's life, that is, the afterlife. After others believe that judgment, reward, and punishment takes place while still in the world. African religion and modern challenges. It therefore means that when we have seen all this, we have had information of all this, there are challenges, modern, that we must attend to. Despite the thought that African religion has many forces militating against it, and understanding its importance, it is modern in this modern age. It is important and striking at all costs to find a renewed life. Since humanity as a whole is dynamic, societies and its various religious beliefs cannot be static. African religions have changed in Africa, and these have affected the people religiously, spiritually, socially, morally, politically, and educationally. Yet, with the introduction of Christianity, Islam, Western education, urbanization, and industrialization, African religion still continues to be the faith of many. African men and women, wherever they identify themselves. Christianity and Muslim continue to patronize their indigenous religion for protection and security as the need arises. We want to thank you for listening, and we are expecting you for study session 7. God bless you.